Welcome back to Math Mini Lessons, and today we're going to plot positive and negative numbers in all four quadrants on a graph. In today's models, we really want to build awareness on two things. We've been doing graphing for a while, probably I think since elementary school, and there's still two common mistakes that we see tons of kids making. So we want to build some awareness around that so we're not making the same ones. So what I have here, we have our coordinate grid, we have our grid here, and you can see that axes split it into four sections. And that's why we call them quadrants, because quadrants mean four. And so I've labeled this 1, 2, 3, and 4. And these are using Roman numerals. So that's the first thing I just want you to know. Roman numerals use letters like I to mean the number 1. So 1, I means 3, and IV is 4. Because V is 5, so 1 minus 5 makes 4. So that's the first thing I want you just to know, that is really 7th grade content, that there are 4 quadrants and that is how we name them. And you've probably noticed that they are not labeled 1, 2, 3, 4 in a regular motion. Like we're used to seeing things in this way. We call that clockwise because when we think of clocks, the minute hands go in this way. So this is counterclockwise, where we start here at 1, we go to 2, 3, and 4. So I've just labeled this, and I put some items on the graph so we can just practice plotting, because that is the first really common error that we need to fix now and make sure that we're really aware of how we're graphing now before we get to 8th grade. By 8th grade, we're going to be doing tons of stuff with equations, so this is going to be really important. And what I tend to notice with kids is we know that we have 2 points, X and Y. And a lot of times kids, for example, and I'm going to just put a point here, right here, they're not sure if this is 3, 6 or 6, 3. And more than half of kids will get this correct. But there's still a significant amount of kids that will mix them up because they're not being careful, they're not being conscious. So we're going to fix this up right now so you never forget it. Here's the thing. We know that the X comes first. It's always X and then Y. It's alphabetical order when you really think about it, X and Y. So one thing I tell kids to do is, as you're doing this, if you need to, label your axes X and Y so that you can have some idea of a directionality. And that is just one visual that will remind you that you're starting off going on this axis first before moving here. So that's one thing I tell kids to do. If you're looking for another image that really helps, think of an airplane and how it gets into the air, right? If you've ever been to an airport, you're on the runway and the plane has to go super fast down the runway before it can go up into the air. So it has to go down the runway before going up. Or if you love basketball like I do, I love basketball. Imagine someone going for a fast break and they go down the court. They're dribbling all the way down the court and they jump up into the air to dunk it. So they got to run before they rise. So that is one way to think about this. We can consider it you're running from left to right before you rise. And yes, I know I'm using rise going up, but you can it can go up or down. Okay, so that's the thing, because we have 2 quadrants now and we're starting at 0, 0. We're starting at our origin 0. Is a possibility that we might go to the left, which are negative numbers. So you can go left or right. And the same thing for our y-axis, you can go up or down. So those are 2 things I want to just clear up so we're not making this mistake again when it comes to graphing. So when I think of this point here, think of our points. We have to run down to 3 and then go up to 6. So the correct one is 3, 6, not 6, 3. And that should be one mistake that we don't want to have again and again. But again, it depends on you guys right now and building that awareness. So keep that in mind. So those are 2 tricks you can use. Second thing that I want to clear up for a lot of us in here has to do with how we're graphing the points. And so many math marbles. When I would ask them to, let's say they're graphing the point 5, 4, they'll move and they'll see the 5 here and they'll count 1, 2, 3 boxes. They're really counting the boxes, to be honest. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 boxes. And then they count up 1, 2, 3, 4. And they put a point right here. I cannot tell you how often I've seen this happen where a kid will put a point here and say, that is 5, 4, because in their mind, they've literally counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then went 1, 2, 3, 4. They counted the space. They're not really graphing. So we need to make sure we are not doing that, that our points are going, when we're counting, we're going right at those numbers. That's where the number 1 is. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then from here, they're going 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is where the point should be going, right there, right on those crosshairs, where this line crosses with this line. That is where that point has to go. So we're going to look and make sure those two things are really, really clear, that you're graphing correctly and that you are not graphing in the space in the boxes. We're actually graphing on the lines. Awesome. So let's jump into our new content now. So we're not going to make any of those mistakes, but we do have to just name them. And we're going to look at these quadrants. And the first thing I want you to think about is the number lines. So we have 2 number lines. We know they overlap to make this lovely coordinate grid. And as we're graphing in each quadrant has very specific types of numbers. All the numbers will have the same qualities. So for example, here in 1, where we graph the most times, every number here on the X is to the right of 0. So they're all positive. Every single number this way is going to be positive. Same thing. Anything moving up from 0 is also going to be positive. So that's the first quality I want you to think about when it comes to our first quadrant, that you have 2 positive numbers. You're going to the right and you're going up. That is quadrant 1. You have a positive X and a positive Y. So looking at our first little point over here, of course, we know how to travel. We're running to 8 and we're going up to 3. So this point is in quadrant 1. 8 and 3 are both positive numbers, positive and positive. Now, and over here we have a little chem book, and our little chem book, if we run to -9, so we're going to the left, -9, and we're going up to 10. So in this quadrant, what do you notice? You notice that your X's are negative and your Y's are positive. So that is quadrant 2, where you have a negative and then a positive. So you're going to the left and up. That is quadrant 2. So again, just everything up here. Here's positive X's, here's negative X's, and our Y's are positive and positive because they're both going up. Let's go to the bottom half. So now we know down here, since we're in this end, our Y's are going to be negative. But what do we notice about our X's? Well, it depends on the direction we're really going, doesn't it? Let's look at our apple. And our apple is to the left of 0. So that makes it negative. And it is also, our Y is below 0. So it is also negative. So here's negative and negative. So to the left and down. And that is quadrant 3. So in this case, we went to the left 8 times and we went down 8 times. So 8, 8, that is this point, a negative and a negative. And our nice little pen with the heart is in quadrant 4. And how am I moving to him? Think again, from 0, what are we doing? We're moving to the right and down. So we're moving to the right of 0, that's a positive. And we're moving down, so that's negative. So we're moving to the right 2 times and down 6. So it is 2, -6. And so that is our last quality here. I'm just putting this in our notes so we really have it, and we're going to hit pause right here so you can jot this down and add it to your notes. Great, awesome. So now we have all this information. Let's do one more just practice part together, and we have 3 more points that we're going to graph at this point in time. So I'm going to start off. Remember, I want a visual because I don't want to make errors that are silly. We're going to build our awareness, which means we're going to make sure we take the time to think about it, our X and our Y. So let's start over here. Here are 3 points. we're going to plot them. And I want us to think about our directionality. So if you're from 0, you're from 0, 0, at that origin, how are you moving? So I want everyone really looking right here, right now. And your first number is -8 and 5. So the first one, if you're running first, we're running and then rising. So -8, if you're going to the left and up. So in your mind, you're going to the left and up. Where are you ending up? Are you ending up in quadrant 1, 2, 3, or 4? Think about it. From here, you are moving to the left and up. And let's see if you did it correctly. If you're moving to the left and up, you are ending up here in quadrant 2. So I'm putting it in Roman numerals 2, but I'm also just putting the 2 there so since we're still learning our Roman numerals. Awesome. So let's graph this little guy. Let's put him, let's move him to our part, and we're moving to -8. See, I'm on the 8, not in the space. I'm not counting these little boxes. I'm going straight to the 8 and up 5. Right there. So it's right in the very, very center. It's not in the space. It's on the line. There we go. So there is our first correctly plotted -8, 5. Let's go to our next one, our little apple. And our apple is at 3, 10, both positive numbers. So +3, meaning you're going to go to the right 3 times and up 10. So again, in your mind's eye, if you're starting here, go to the right and up, and that will lead you bing, bing, bing right here in quadrant 1. So we're going to move him over. Let's make him a little smaller. And we're going to move him to 3. Remember, we're not doing 3 squares. 3 on the line and up 10. There we go. So this guy is at 3, 10, which is in quadrant 1. And let's look at our very last point, and he's at 10, -7. So with 10, what direction are you moving? You are moving to the right, and -7, you're moving down. So think about it. Tell me what quadrant. If you're moving to the right and down, you will be in quadrant 4. So let's move this little guy. Oops, come on, little Chem book. Make him a little smaller. We are going to move him over to 10 and down to 7. There we go. And 7. Want him right at that low line. Let's move him just to make sure he's like right in the very, very center. Because I want to be really careful about this. It really matters, Math Marvels, how we do these things and how careful we actually are in attending to that precision, because how we do anything in math is how we do everything in math. If you're careless, if you're trying to just rush through, then you're going to make silly errors, and those errors are going to carry over, and as we get to more complicated problems, you're going to find less and less success, and that's not what we want. We want to be successful. We want to make sure we're getting things done correctly, and so that's the way we're really making progress and growing. By being careless, it doesn't help anyone. So how we do everything in math is how we do everything in math, and we really want to push for that attention to precision and being careful. So there you go, there you got it. Now you know about our 4 quadrants. We're absolutely sure how to graph things correctly and to make sure we're plotting things correctly as well. So take a moment, we're going to jot this into our notes, and we'll see you really soon in the next video.